Hi everyone, so I recently decided to further develop this high-resolution sculpt of the cave troll I made by bringing it to the next stages of the character creation pipeline. So for this video, I'll show you the techniques and process of how I manually created a retopologized version of this character. To begin creating the retopologized version of this character, import the high-resolution sculpt in your Blender scene. It would be better if you decimate it first so to make your scene lighter and more optimized. I made a tutorial about decimating high-resolution sculpt which is linked on the description box below. Okay, the first tip is to enable the snapping options with the following parameters: snap to face, snap with closest, enable the project individual elements, and finally, enable move, rotate, and scale. After the previous step, create a mesh plane by pressing Shift-A, and choosing a polygon plane. This is going to be the starting point from which the retopologized character will be created. After that, rotate, move, and scale that plane to reposition it to the eye area because that area is where I will start extruding edges. You may also want to change the color of the viewport display to make the retopologized version distinguishable from the high-resolution sculpt. You can do that by going to the Object Data Properties tab, and under the viewport display, you will find the color section where you can choose the color. Okay, so now that the plane's viewport display color is distinguishable from the high-resolution sculpt, and it's roughly where the starting point will be, I'm going to rename it just to properly identify it. You may also want to make sure that the normals are facing the right direction early on by going to the viewport overlays in the edit mode. You can see the surface normal pointing outward, which indicates it's pointing in the right direction. Now that we know that's correct, we can disable its visibility again. From here, we can now begin to add the shrink wrap modifier as well as the mirror modifier. Occasionally you may need to temporarily disable the snapping option if it starts to snap uncontrollably when positioning it to its precise location. For shrink wrap options, wrap method is set to nearest surface point. For snap mode, I've seen and tried many settings used by different tutorials and they all seem to work just fine for Retopo purposes. To keep things simple, I'd use fly cat's settings, which is above surface. The target option allows you to choose the high resolution sculpt to which the Retopo mesh should shrink itself to. At this point, don't forget to enable the on cage to get an accurate visual feedback of what the shrink wrap modifier is doing. The mesh plane just sunk into the surface since the shrink wrap offset is set to 0, so we need to enable the in front option to make it visible regardless of the offset value. You can do that by going to the Object Data Properties under the viewport display. That is where you can find the in front option. Another thing that's going on here is a common problem, especially when applying the mirror modifier. You can see the mirrored object is not where it's supposed to. We can better see why that is by temporarily removing the mirror modifier. When mirroring objects, the mirror modifier is using the object's origin as its reference point, which is represented by that orange dot. So what we need to do to resolve that is to move the origin to the center of the sculpt. I know by default that the 3D cursor is at the center of the object, so I'll be using that as reference for the set origin command. I'll right-click and choose Set Origin, then Origin to 3D Cursor. Now, if we apply the mirror modifier, this should work correctly. We've pretty much set everything up for the Retopo process itself. From here, I'll be sharing with you the tools and techniques I use to create the retopologized version of this character. I'd usually start by establishing the essential loops such as the area surrounding the eyes, neck, elbows, shoulders, and body parts with joints. So for this example, I'm starting with the area surrounding the eyes. This process is essentially modeling in Blender, and it's done in the edit mode by selecting the components such as vertices by pressing 1, edges by pressing 2, and faces by pressing 3. So I just selected an edge by pressing 2, and then the hotkey E to extrude it. I then rotated it by pressing R. What you are now seeing are the same steps done previously and repeatedly until the edge loops surrounding the eye is created. A faster way to do this is by pressing Ctrl right-click while an edge is selected. This method lets Blender figure out where you want the direction of the edge to move towards too. Alternatively, a similar result is achieved when you use the Extrude to Cursor command. With this method, instead of doing Ctrl right-click, what you need to do is select an edge and then activate the tool. When the tool is activated, you just need to keep clicking until the loops are created and closed. To close the loop, select the two edges that should connect and press F to fill the gap. You may now adjust the vertices by pressing 1 and move them accordingly by pressing G. To start another loop somewhere else, let's say the mouth area, you can select a face and then duplicate it by pressing Shift D and move it where you want to start next. So again, select the vertices and adjust its location as needed. Also, enable the clipping option to prevent the vertices from overlapping to the other side. From here, I'll use the same approach I've already shown you by selecting the edge and pressing Ctrl right click. Or use the extrude to cursor command, which will yield same results. When you get to the end, just snap the end vertices to the center since we can't close it yet as the other side is just a mirrored object. Once a loop is established, you can add resolution to it by selecting an edge and pressing Ctrl R and clicking outside the model or finalize it. To start expanding the polygons created at this point, you can click an outside edge and press E to extrude it. And then you can use the rotate, move, and scale to reposition it. Now that I have this kind of structure, I'll pick those edges and press E to extrude it. I need to merge those vertices, so I'll select them both and press M to merge them to center. Okay, so when you get to this situation where there's an open corner, an easier way to add polygons to this is by using the Poly Build tool. To do this, first, select the Poly Build tool, then press Ctrl while click dragging to the other corner. Now for this, it looks like the tool isn't working. One of the ways to fix this is to select the vertices that are involved and merge them by distance. Increasing the merge distance value to make sure vertices lying on top of each other are merged. I would then just repeat the tools and techniques I already taught you. Another tool you can use is the Smooth tool to even or smoothen out the distribution of vertices. Just select those vertices and then while those vertices are selected, activate the Smooth tool. You will see a yellow colored handle. Click dragging the handle will enable you to interactively smoothen the vertices. Okay, here's another trick to close this kind of gap. As long as there are the same number of edges facing each other, just select that edge they both share and keep pressing F. Blender would have already figured out that it needs to bridge the gaps that are facing each other. Alright, that's pretty much it. All the techniques and tools will just be a repetition of what I've already covered, so I will show you the time lapse of the actual retopology process for this cave troll. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.